On my evoker, I pugged from fresh level 70 to about 2800 IO with every key timed at 20 or higher, and it took me about 2 days and 17 hours of playtime. This playtime went over the course of 8 weeks and 63 total keys, 35 of which were timed, 15 of which were depleted, and 13 of which were incomplete, which means if my math is correct, we only timed about 55% of the keys. Throughout these 63 keys, assuming the in-game statistics is correct, I died 196 times in dungeons. This does include time leveling and whatnot, but I didn't die a whole lot during that, so benefit of the doubt, it does not go to me. My average death was about 3 per key. At first glance, that sounded awful, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized how many really long keys I had, where we wiped like 8 times. We had a handful of keys with 30 or more deaths. So an average of 3 per key, being an undergeared evoker, maybe not that bad, but some were definitely my fault too. Next thing I wanted to do was go over some of the shining moments for me, some of my favorite moments from a couple different weeks in the series. The big one for week 1 was Campman. I believe it was my 3rd key, my +8 Ruby life pools. We couldn't find a tank, so I just asked in the guild that randomly invited me if they had anyone who wanted to tank this key. Campman asked what kind of eye level would be required for that, and then he told me that he was only 371 eye level, and I checked him, his best key at the time was a 2. I whispered him and just said, "Do you want to just try it?" And he was like, sure. So we gave it a shot, and he actually did really well. He's doing pretty good for himself now. He's 0.2 score under 2400. He's done some 18s, some 19s. Definitely a bit of a glow up here. I'm very happy to see that because he was definitely a lot better than he seemed to think he was at the time. He was super worried about his performance that key, and he did great. I think he did really well. So I love to see that he kept doing keys after that and got up to where he belongs, or potentially not even there yet. And could have more room to grow. I just wanted to check in on him and see how he was doing now. Another big moment for me was Poladan. You'll probably remember Poladan if you watched the series. If I remember correctly, we had a no code gone wrong, and then I listed the 19 or whatever it was, and I could not find a tank. And then Poladan queued up. His IO was kind of low for the key. His experience was kind of low for the key, but I really needed a tank. And his note, he left a note that says, "has a big heart." And I was like, fuck it, invite him. So I invited him, and he did really well. He had me convinced that he was on an alt. That's how well he did. So I ended up adding him to my battle tag. I just stayed up here offline all the time, so he never saw my other characters. And we ended up playing quite a few more times throughout the series, and he continued to do very well and continued to impress while being a super nice guy. He's almost gotten a 3K. That was his goal, so hopefully he can get that. I know he's good enough. Hopefully he has the time to get there. I did end up revealing to him after I was done recording the series who I was and all of that, mostly because when I started using up here online again, and instead of offline, I didn't want him to see my other characters and be super confused or feel like I was just using him for the series, because I actually did enjoy playing with him, and I've actually played with him a couple times since ending the series on my other characters too. We get along really well, so no reason not to. And as it turned out, he actually saw my DK series back in BFA, but had not watched since and had no idea who I was, which is kind of a crazy small thing, but definitely one of my favorite recurring characters we've had in all of my series. One of my favorite things about doing these series is the people I meet and becoming friends with. Like in my first season of the series, I actually met the rogue Jaha that I ended up doing the MDI with in the future and qualifying for 2 MDI cups with the guy. Met him on my warrior during a pugging series. Who would have thought? The week after I met Poladan, I met a prop paladin named Teika. At the time, all I knew about Teika was that he mained a warlock, and that's because he told me that. And for some reason, I was really suspicious of him. I ended up adding him to V tag, and I tried to figure out who he was, but his main wasn't attached to his radar IO. So I pulled out the stalking skills, I guess, which is not something I ever thought I'd say out loud. I found some key he did, or some guy he did keys with a few times, tracked them down. All I knew was this guy mained a warlock. The guy he played with multiple times was in a different guild. Then his paladin wasn't in a guild at all. And they had the same progression as Teika did in his achievements. So I checked their Diurna mythic kill and saw they only had 1 warlock in, and it was this warlock, which apparently is gone now. But I discovered that he actually left that guild and was in a different guild at this point, but I was almost certain that was him, and he wasn't who I thought he was. So it turned out not to be suspicious after all. But I'm not sure if I should be proud to say this or not, but I ended up discovering I was right. I was right about who he was, despite it being not obvious at all. I had him on B tag, and I saw him log on the warlock later on, so I was right about who he was. It's kind of a funny little thing. I spent like an hour stalking the fucking guy because I was suspicious that he knew who I was. I guess I don't know for sure that he doesn't, but nothing he said was a lie. And the way he talked to me seemed like he didn't know he was being recorded. I don't know. There's people talk a certain way when they're being recorded, or they don't talk at all. I've gotten a pretty good sense of who's sniping or not. I unfortunately never got to play with him again because we just never were online at the same time when I was on my evoker. But I definitely would have been happy to because he was also a super nice guy and also very good. And also a prop paladin. Kind of funny that both the people I added ended up being prop paladins. I only added 2 people. The final moment that I wanted to talk about was the final Halls of Valor I did, in which I got the portal for Halls of Valor from. I guess it wasn't actually the last one I did because I did one for Poland after that. But the one that got me the plus 20 in time for the first time. That group, I was so I doubted them more than I've ever doubted a group ever. Things were just not going well. People were dying every pull. I felt like the healer wasn't really keeping up, but I'm not one to leave a key, so I stuck it out, even though I was pretty sure we weren't going to time it. There was a point where I would have put money on us not timing that key. I was completely convinced we were not going to time it. And things just kept going wrong. We kept having, one death here, one death there. It was always messy, but there was never quite a wipe. So we managed to recover from all of this sloppiness. And then suddenly at the end of the key, I had this realization that, wait a second, we have time to do this. If we don't wipe, which I was not sure about, because of how sloppy it had been, I still wasn't confident, but it's like, wait, if we don't wipe, we actually can time this. Suddenly it hit me that I was being really doubtful of them when I didn't really need to be, because we were actually doing okay. It just didn't feel like it. And then suddenly we actually timed it with minutes to spare. We had 2 minutes and 13 seconds at the end of the key. So obviously we didn't really have time for a full wipe, but we didn't have a full wipe, so it didn't matter. But that was just one of those funny moments where I was so sure we weren't timing that. I genuinely would have put money on it. And then somehow we just kind of limped our way to the finish line and timed it. And that was my first 20 timed hauls on this character. And after that, I called in the assassin Poladan, the key assassin, and we wrapped up all my 20s in time, and then did a few more keys for fun to help Poladan out. Another thing I wanted to quickly talk about is I changed my name on week 5. And some people were asking me why I changed my name, because it did totally screw up my radar IO, which made it much harder for me to get into pugs because it showed a lower score than I should have had. Even to this day, it still shows me as 2K instead of 2800 on radar IO. The reason for this was on my original character, Uka, because of the new changes to the Dragonflight base UI, I forgot to change my game to only show character achievements. So at some point around the middle to the end of week 4, one of my viewers hit me up and told me that Uka was now showing my cutting edge achievements on his radar IO page, which is a big problem because if people go to the page, that's the first thing they're going to see. I enabled the setting and I tried to update radar IO, but it just wasn't forgetting that it was there, so I had to change the name to make it go away. After changing the name, everything worked as it was supposed to. What I think happened was I killed heroic bosses, and once it saw me do that, it looked at my raid achievements and realized I had cutting edge. Because despite my account not being connected to the character, it's found the achievements on the character, or rather on the account the character was connected to on Battle.net. So I believe that's what happened, but I changed the name to get rid of it as soon as I could, so it wouldn't have any repercussions on the series, and it ended up actually hurting me. If I didn't change the name, would it help me? Changing the name actually hurt me quite a bit. It made it so much harder for me to get into keys and get people to join my key, because my radar IO just looked so weird. Fortunately, the in-game score system exists now, so they could still see that I was actually higher score, but they couldn't see the keys I did to get there. Anyways, that is why I changed the name on week 5, seemingly out of nowhere. I think that's about everything I wanted to talk about as far as in the series. The other thing I wanted to talk about was how the series went on more of a grand scale, because I completely changed the format. I completely changed the way I edited things. I changed the way I recorded things. I changed everything because I was just kind of getting tired of the same old. I wanted to kind of try something new, do an experiment, and I think it went incredibly well. I'm very happy with how the series went. I think the way I'm editing the videos now allows for people who haven't seen episode 1, 2, and 3 to watch episode 4 and still enjoy it. I think it kind of helps you guys keep up with what's going on, because if I edited it like I did before, we'd still be on episode 10 or whatever right now, and it would be week 3, and there's 8 weeks of the series. I'd be scrambling trying to catch up and trying to get the videos out before the patch comes out. And that was the main thing that I just got sick of doing in the past, was just the scramble to try to make sure I finished in the season. While this way of editing it was a bit more intense during the time I was recording it, I think it helped keep up with a lot better, kept the continuity a lot better. If you guys have any comments or thoughts on that, definitely let me know. But personally, I'm very happy with it. I learned a lot about editing videos and working on this kind of style and kind of incorporating that into other videos I'm making as well. And also, since a lot of people have asked me what my plans for next season are, or what I'm planning to play, I think my plan for next season is remaining the same, meaning that I intend to try to push keys on my main, or if I already am experienced on a class that is super good, I might switch to that, push keys on that. My main being my shaman, LA and enhance at this point. And I want to make videos similar to the pugging video style, where it's like fast paced, like just kind of covering the whole week, all the good moments of my adventure pushing keys for the first time since like Legion. I haven't really pushed keys since a long time ago. I would do keys here and there with friends, like relatively high keys, or I would go do like the MDI or something, somewhat successfully qualified a couple times, didn't really win anything. But this season I want to try to push my keys up, try to do actual big keys, whether that's through pugs, through with hanging out with viewers, because I have some viewers that I play with sometimes that we can do pretty high keys on, playing with guildies, playing with key pushers if I end up in the network, like whatever I end up doing, no limitations to just pugs like I have been doing. And I just want to see how that goes. And then the next season after that, we'll kind of go from there. But decent chance we try, maybe a different class on the pug series again, or a different goal, or we go back to something else. I kind of want to keep mixing it up a little bit, but keeping, the format familiar enough that you guys can enjoy it. Trying to be a little more creative. Hopefully that goes well. As always, I appreciate you guys for watching, hanging out, and being so supportive, which I'm hoping to keep uploading on Sundays. May falter a bit during progression when the raid comes out, because I'm streaming and raiding 15 hours a day. But as soon as raid's over, back to the schedule, I hope. Also, kind of ironic, this video might not be out on Sunday. It's currently 2 in the morning. I'm trying to finish it. And I'm also sick. Anyways, bye.